The hangar air tasted like diesel and sweat. Captain Viktor Petrov's voice cut through the morning briefing, each word sharp as a blade drawn slow. Weakness hides in plain sight. It waits for the right moment to fail you. And failure here. He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled NATO personnel like a sniper acquiring targets. Failure here gets people killed. 53 personnel from 6 nations stood in formation inside the cavernous training hangar at Ramstein Air Base, Germany. The space stretched 200 feet end to end, high ceilings ribbed with steel beams that threw geometric shadows across stacks of tactical equipment. Morning light bled through frosted windows near the roof, turning airborne dust into suspended gold. The concrete floor bore scars from years of heavy machinery, tire marks, oil stains, the ghost outlines of where cargo pallets once sat. Near the east wall, an obstacle course sprawled like a metallic jungle. Rope climbs, cargo nets, balance beams, and a 15-foot tower with rappel lines. The smell of rubber mats mixed with gun oil, and the faint metallic tang of tools being sharpened somewhere out of sight. Riley Brooks stood third row back, eyes forward, posture locked, 5'7", athletic build beneath the oversized jacket she never removed, despite the hangar's climbing temperature. Dark blonde hair pulled into a regulation bun so tight it made her temples ache. Green eyes tracked Petrov without seeming to follow him, a trick she'd learned years ago, watching without being caught watching. Her jaw carried a small scar near the left hinge, barely visible unless you knew to look. Hands at her sides, fingers loose, breathing steady, 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. The pattern so automatic now she could do it in her sleep. Around her, the other trainees shifted weight, adjusted gear, whispered to each other. She stayed still. Petrov continued his speech, accent threading through his English, like wire through fabric. German by citizenship, but something older lived beneath those vowels, something that made the hairs on the back of veteran necks stand up. He was 42, 6'1", built like a man who had spent decades carrying weight through mountains. Short dark hair going silver at the temples, eyes pale blue, the kind that reflected light instead of absorbing it. His uniform carried German insignia, but fit him wrong somehow, like borrowed skin. When he smiled, it never reached past his teeth. "This program separates the capable from the pretenders," Petrov said, pacing in front of his formation. His boots struck the concrete in measured rhythm. "NATO does not coddle. NATO does not make exceptions. You are here because your nations believe you can contribute to joint operations at the highest level. I am here to prove them wrong or right." He stopped, looked directly at Riley. "Some of you will not make it past week 1. The weight of his stare pressed against her like a physical thing. She met it, face blank as fresh concrete. Something flickered behind his eyes, recognition maybe, or its shadow. Then he moved on, continuing down the line. Master Sergeant Frank Garrett stood near the tactical planning board, 20 feet to Riley's left. 63 years old, 5'10", built compact and solid like a weathered fence post. Gray crew cut, lines carved deep around his mouth, and eyes from decades of squinting into sun and wind. He wore the uniform of a man who had earned every thread: U.S. Army, multiple deployment patches, a combat infantryman badge that looked older than some of the trainees. His right hand rested casual on his belt, but his gaze stayed sharp. He'd been watching Riley since she arrived 3 days ago. Not suspicious watching, curious watching, the way you watch a puzzle when you're missing one piece but can feel its shape. Garrett had seen the way she moved through the pre-training assessment. Clean, efficient, no wasted motion. When she'd lifted a 50-pound gear bag onto a pallet, her grip had been wrong for a rookie. 3 fingers, thumb locked over the strap, weight distributed through her core instead of her shoulders. That was muscle memory. That was training most people here would never receive. And when Petrov had barked an order directly behind her, she hadn't jumped, hadn't even flinched. Just turned, smooth as water, and acknowledged. Now Garrett shifted his weight, crossed his arms. His eyes tracked from Riley to Petrov and back again. Something was happening here. He didn't know what yet, but 30 years in special operations had taught him to trust the itch between his shoulder blades. Petrov dismissed the formation. Personnel scattered toward their assigned stations. Weapons maintenance, equipment checks, physical training rotations. Riley moved toward the gear storage area near the south wall, where dented lockers stood in rows beneath flickering fluorescent lights. She passed a group of German contingent members clustered near a workbench. Their conversation died as she approached. Eyes followed her, not friendly eyes. Sergeant Brock Harrison leaned against a locker, arms folded across his chest. American, late 20s, with the kind of build that came from protein powder and mirror checks. Sandy hair buzzed military short, jaw sharp enough to cut paper. He specialized in equipment systems. Harnesses, rigging, safety gear. Made him useful, also made him dangerous when he wanted to be. He watched Riley open her locker, pull out a coil of rope for the morning's training rotation. "Hey, rookie," Harrison called. His voice carried that particular tone, friendly on the surface, poison underneath. "You sure you know how to use that? Rope's not like the stuff at your local gym." Riley didn't respond. Checked the rope for frays, running it through her hands in sections. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, finding weak spots by touch alone. Harrison pushed off the locker, stepped closer. "I'm talking to you." She looked up, met his eyes, said nothing. Her face gave away exactly 0. "Strong, silent type, huh?" Harrison grinned, but it was all teeth and no warmth. "That's cute. Won't help you on the tower, though. You fail that climb, you're out. Petrov doesn't give second chances." He glanced toward where the captain stood near the obstacle course, clipboard in hand. "Especially not to rookies who think they can coast." Riley coiled the rope over her shoulder, secured it, started to walk past him. Harrison shifted, blocked her path, not aggressive enough to draw attention, just enough to make a point. "You deaf or just rude?" "Neither." Her voice came out quiet, flat, no emotion riding it. "Then maybe try being part of the team." Harrison's smile widened. "Or is that too hard for someone like you?" Someone like you. The words hung there, weighted with everything he didn't say. Riley's jaw tightened, the only tell she gave. Then she stepped around him, clean and smooth, and headed toward the obstacle course. Behind her, Harrison's laugh mixed with the ambient noise of the hangar, metal clanging, boots on concrete, distant radio chatter. If you think she should have spoken up, hit that like button. And subscribe to see how silence becomes her deadliest weapon. Your support means everything as we build this community together. The morning progressed in brutal increments. Obstacle course drills, rope climbs, weapons disassembly and reassembly against the clock. Riley moved through each station with mechanical efficiency, hitting marks but never exceeding them. Good enough to pass, not good enough to stand out. She stumbled once on the balance beam, caught herself, but the wobble looked real. During weapons drill, she took 8 seconds longer than the top performer to field strip an M4. Competent, unremarkable, exactly what a rookie should be. But Garrett noticed the things others missed. The way her hands never fumbled during the weapons drill, despite the slow time. The way her stumble on the balance beam happened at precisely the spot where a real mistake would be most forgivable. The way she controlled her breathing during the rope climb, steady as a metronome, while others around her gasped and wheezed. During a water break, Garrett drifted closer to where Riley stood near the equipment racks, alone. She was adjusting the fit of her tactical gloves, tugging each finger into perfect position. Her jacket sleeves came down past her wrists, covering everything but her hands. "Hot day for long sleeves," Garrett said conversational, not quite looking at her. Riley glanced at him. "I run cold." "In 95-degree heat?" Garrett smiled, just a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. "Must be some circulation problem." "Must be." She finished adjusting the gloves, started to turn away. "You move well," Garrett continued, casual as discussing the weather. "Better than most rookies I've seen come through. 30 years I've been doing this. You know what I notice? The ones who move too well. The ones who try not to." Riley's hands stilled, just for a second. Then she picked up her water bottle, took a measured sip. "Maybe I'm just athletic. Maybe." Garrett's eyes held hers. Kind eyes, sharp eyes, the kind that had seen things and remembered them. Or maybe you're carrying something heavy under all that silence. Something you don't want people seeing. He let that sit between them for a moment. Then, either way, you watch yourself around Petrov. That man looks at you like he's trying to remember where he left something important. Before Riley could respond, a whistle shrilled across the hangar. Petrov stood near the tower, gesturing personnel toward the repelling station. Time to move. The training rotations continued. Riley partnered with Staff Sergeant Paolo Marino for a tactical scenario, room clearing, covering angles, communication under pressure. Marino was Italian contingent, mid-30s, with a runner's build and eyes that never stayed on one thing too long. He had the social instincts of a high school mean girl, always watching who stood with whom, who got praised, who got ignored. He'd latched onto Petrov's dismissive attitude toward Riley like a compass finding north. During the drill, Riley moved through the mock-up structure flawlessly, cleared corners, called out sectors, maintained spacing. But Marino made sure to stumble into her line of fire twice, forcing her to break position. Made sure to call out targets late, putting her in reactive mode instead of proactive. Small things, deniable things, the kind of sabotage that looked like accidents. When they finished, Petrov reviewed the drill, his gaze fixed on Riley, slow on the door entry, hesitant on Sector 3. Your partner had to cover your mistake. He made a notation on his clipboard. That's how people die. Riley said nothing, stood at attention. Marino suppressed a smirk. By 1300 hours, the hangar felt like the inside of an oven. Sweat-darkened uniforms, dripped from chins, made gloves slippery. Riley had completed 5 rotations: obstacle course, weapons maintenance, tactical scenarios, physical conditioning, and equipment inspection. Each rotation pushing her harder, each instructor finding small faults to note, the pressure building like water behind a dam. She moved toward the locker area during a brief rest period. Other personnel clustered in groups, talking, laughing, bonding. She stayed separate, drank water from her canteen, kept her jacket on despite the heat radiating off her in visible waves. The dog tags under her collar clinked softly when she moved, a sound so quiet most people wouldn't notice. But the tags themselves were wrong. The serial number stamped into them didn't follow standard format. Too many digits, too few letters, wrong spacing. Harrison appeared at her elbow, Jensen trailing behind him. "You know what I heard," Harrison said loud enough for nearby personnel to hear. "I heard rookies who can't hack the first week usually wash out by day 3. That's tomorrow." He turned to the small audience they'd gathered. "Anyone want to place bets?" Scattered chuckles, not cruel laughter, not yet. Just the casual mockery that comes from group dynamics and boredom. "I'll take that bet," Jensen said. He was younger than Harrison, early 20s, with nervous hands that never stopped moving. 20 says she's gone by 1600 hours tomorrow. 40 says she doesn't make it past today's tower drill, Marino added, joining the circle. Riley finished her water, capped the canteen, started to walk away. "Hey, we're talking to you," Harrison called after her. "Least you could do is acknowledge your team." She stopped, turned, her face still blank. "I acknowledge you." Then she walked away before they could respond. The laughter behind her was louder this time, meaner. Garrett watched from his position near the tactical board. His jaw tightened. He'd seen this pattern before, the group turning on the outsider, the pressure building until something broke, usually the outsider. But something in Riley's posture, the straight spine, the measured steps, the absolute refusal to show weakness, made him think maybe this time would be different. 1500 hours brought the tower drill. The structure rose 15 feet from the hangar floor, a steel frame scaffolding with platforms at intervals and rappelling lines hanging like spider silk from the top. The drill was simple: climb to the summit, secure the rappel harness, descend under control. Standard exercise. But at 15 feet, a fall could break bones, could end careers, could kill if you landed wrong. Petrov stood at the base of the tower, Harrison beside him checking harnesses. One by one, personnel climbed, some fast, some slow, all successful. The pile of completed harnesses grew near Petrov's feet. Riley's turn came. She approached the tower, accepted the harness from Harrison. It was standard issue, nylon webbing, steel buckles, rated for 300 pounds. She examined it briefly, running her fingers along the straps. Her fingers paused, just for a second, at the primary load-bearing shackle. The metal felt wrong, too smooth, too loose. She looked up. Harrison watched her with flat eyes. The shackle had been compromised, not broken, not obviously, just loosened enough that under full load during descent, it might slip, might fail, might drop her 15 feet onto concrete. Riley's breathing stayed steady. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. She secured the harness anyway, adjusted the straps, started climbing. The tower rang with each handhold, metal on metal. Her boots found purchase on the crossbeams, weight distributed through her legs instead of her arms. She climbed smooth and fast, reaching the summit in under 30 seconds. At the top, she secured the rappel line to the harness, tested it once. The shackle held, for now. Below, Petrov watched with his arms crossed. Harrison stood beside him, hands in his pockets. Garrett had moved closer, sixth sense prickling. Riley positioned herself at the edge. Standard rappelling stance, feet shoulder-width apart, rope behind her back, brake hand ready. The distance to the floor yawned beneath her. 15 feet. Enough. She began descending, smooth, controlled. The rope hissed through the brake mechanism. 5 feet down, 10 feet down. The shackle held. Then it shifted. Just a quarter inch, just enough. The load redistribution sent a shudder through the harness. Riley felt it instantly. Her right hand tightened on the brake line, slowing descent to almost nothing. But the momentum was already there. The shackle loosened another degree. 12 feet up, 3 feet from the ground. The metal groaned. Riley made a choice. Instead of freezing, she released the brake slightly, accelerated the descent, and hit the ground harder than safe, but controlled enough to roll with it. She tucked, distributed impact through her shoulder and back, came up in a crouch. The harness shackle chose that moment to fail completely, the buckle springing open with a sharp crack. She knelt there on the concrete, breathing hard now, the broken harness hanging loose around her torso. The hangar went silent. Petrov stepped forward, picked up the failed shackle, examined it. His face showed nothing. "Equipment malfunction," he said flat. Looked at Harrison. "You checked this harness?" Harrison nodded. "Yes, sir. It was solid when I issued it." "Clearly not solid enough." Petrov turned to Riley. "You're fortunate you didn't fall from the top. That kind of luck runs out." He made a notation on his clipboard. "See medical, get cleared, then report back for debrief." Riley stood slowly, unclipped the useless harness. Her hands didn't shake, not once. She walked past Harrison without looking at him, past Marino, who'd gone pale, past the cluster of personnel who had stopped to watch. Only Garrett saw the slight tremor in her left shoulder. Only Garrett saw the way her breathing pattern had fractured, just for a moment, before snapping back into that precise 4-count rhythm. Only Garrett saw her fingers brush against the dog tags under her collar, as if checking they were still there. He filed it away, added it to the growing list of things that didn't fit. Medical clearance took 20 minutes. No fractures, no sprains, minor bruising across her back and shoulder, where she'd taken the impact. The medic, a tired-looking German corporal, noted it in her file and cleared her for continued training. Riley left the medbay, started across the hangar toward the debrief area. Petrov stood near the tactical board with Captain Ryan Webb. Webb was U.S. Army, early 40s, 6 feet even, with the build of a former athlete gone slightly soft around the middle. He wore the quiet authority of someone who'd earned rank through competence, not politics. Lead instructor for the NATO program, responsible for evaluating every trainee. Right now, he looked concerned. "Third incident this week, involving that recruit," Webb said, voice low but carrying to where Garrett stood nearby. "Failed equipment, missed safety checks, training accidents. Either she's cursed or something else is happening." Petrov shrugged. "Perhaps she is simply not qualified. Some people are not built for this level of operation. Better we discover it now than in the field." "Maybe." Webb frowned at his tablet, scrolling through Riley's evaluation scores. "But her performance metrics are solid. Not outstanding, but consistent. And her background check came back clean." "Background checks miss things," Petrov said. Something in his tone made Garrett's neck prickle. "I recommend we monitor her closely. For her own safety, of course." Webb nodded slowly. "Of course." Riley approached, came to attention. "Reporting as ordered, sir." Webb looked her over. "How are you feeling?" "Fine, sir." "You took a hard fall." "I've had worse, sir." Webb's eyebrows rose slightly at that. "Have you?" He glanced at his tablet again. "Your file says this is your first advanced tactical training program." "Yes, sir. I meant worse in general fitness training, sir." "Right." Webb didn't look convinced. "Well, you're cleared to continue, but I'm putting you on probation. One more incident, equipment failure, safety violation, anything, and I'll have to recommend your removal from the program. Understood?" "Understood, sir." "Dismissed." Riley saluted, about-faced. Walked away with that same measured pace, spine straight, face empty of everything. Garrett waited until she'd crossed the hangar before approaching Webb. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" Webb glanced at him. "Go ahead, Sergeant. That wasn't equipment failure. That shackle was tampered with." Webb's expression hardened. "You saw this?" "No, sir, but I've been doing this long enough to know sabotage when I see the aftermath. Someone loosened that shackle just enough to fail under load." That's a serious accusation. Yes, sir, it is. Webb studied him. Garrett had been with the program for 6 years, brought in as a senior advisor because of his JSOC background and training expertise. He didn't make claims lightly. Webb trusted that. You have proof? Webb asked. No, sir, just experience and instinct. That's not enough to launch an investigation. I know, sir, but it's enough to watch closer. Someone in this hangar wants her gone. Question is why. Webb looked across the space to where Petrov stood by the tower, inspecting equipment with Harrison. I'll keep my eyes open. You do the same. Already am, sir. The afternoon bled into evening. 1,700 hours came and went. Personnel rotated through final drills, equipment cleaning, debriefs. Riley worked through each task with mechanical precision. Not fast, not slow, just steady, like water wearing down stone. By 1,900 hours, most of the hangar had cleared out. Riley remained near her locker, cleaning her assigned rifle with methodical care. Cotton patches through the barrel, oil on the bolt. Each motion practiced so many times it had become meditation. The hangar echoed with her solitude. Footsteps approached from behind. She didn't turn. You should have failed today. Petrov's voice, close, too close. Riley kept cleaning the rifle. But I didn't. No, you didn't. A pause. The sound of him circling around to face her. That bothers me. She looked up, met those pale eyes. Why would my success bother you, sir? Because I have been watching you. The way you move, the way you breathe when under pressure, the way you control your reactions. He tilted his head, studied her like a specimen under glass. You are too calm, too prepared, too familiar. Familiar, sir? Yes. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Familiar, like I have seen you before. But that is impossible, is it not? Your file says you have never deployed, never seen combat, never operated beyond standard training. Riley's hands stilled on the rifle for just a second, then resumed their work. My file is accurate, sir. Is it? Petrov leaned closer, voice dropping to just above a whisper. Because I am very good at reading people. And you, Riley Brooks, read like someone hiding something. He straightened. But do not worry. If there is something to find, I will find it. I always do. He walked away, boots echoing on concrete. Riley finished cleaning the rifle, packed it into the weapons locker, secured the lock. Her hands remained steady throughout. But after Petrov disappeared through the hangar's east exit, after the space fell silent again, she allowed herself one moment, one brief release. Her right hand came up, pressed flat against her chest, over the dog tags, over the heartbeat that had kicked into double time despite every effort to control it. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. She pulled the jacket tighter around herself despite the heat. Underneath the fabric, beneath the layers, the skin of her back carried things no rookie should have. Stories no one here was supposed to know. And now someone was asking questions. Someone who looked at her like he'd seen a ghost. Somewhere across the hangar, hidden in shadow near the tactical board, Garrett watched her, saw the moment of vulnerability, saw her recover. He'd worked with JSOC for 15 years before retiring into training roles. He knew what operators looked like when they were working, knew the cost of deep cover, knew the weight of carrying secrets in enemy territory, and he knew, with absolute certainty, that Riley Brooks was not who her files said she was. The question was, did Petrov know that too? And if he did, what was he planning to do about it? The hangar lights began shutting off in sections, automated timers sending pools of darkness spreading across the vast space. Riley gathered her remaining gear, headed for the barracks exit. Tomorrow would bring new drills, new tests, new opportunities for failure, accidental or otherwise. She walked through the shadows, jacket wrapped tight, breathing in perfect rhythm. Behind her, the broken harness lay coiled near the trash bin like a shed skin. Evidence of survival, promise of what still waited ahead. The night air outside tasted like rain coming. Storm clouds gathered over the base, lightning flickering in the distance without sound. Riley paused on the barracks steps, looked up at the sky. Let herself have one more moment of truth before tomorrow's masks. Her fingers found the dog tags again, felt the wrong serial number, the one that existed in databases no one here had clearance to access, the one that connected to files marked classified, restricted, eyes only, the one that belonged to someone officially dead. Thunder rolled across the base like a warning. She went inside. Day 2 arrived with steel-gray clouds pressing down on Ramstein like a lid on a pressure cooker. The hangar filled early, 0600, personnel moving through pre-dawn routines with the grim efficiency of people who knew today would be harder than yesterday. Riley entered through the south door, jacket zipped to her throat despite the humidity that made the air feel thick enough to chew. Her locker area was empty, everyone already at formation, so she moved quickly, gathering gear, checking straps, breathing in that careful rhythm that had kept her alive through worse than this. When she reached formation, the space between other trainees opened like water around a stone. No one stood close. No one met her eyes. The isolation had calcified overnight from casual mockery into something colder, more deliberate. Harrison stood 3 rows ahead, laughing at something Jensen whispered. Marino leaned against the wall near the tactical board, watching her with the expression of someone observing an insect they were deciding whether to step on. Petrov took position at the front, clipboard under one arm. Webb stood beside him, face unreadable. Garrett occupied his usual spot near the planning board, but this morning his attention stayed fixed on Riley with an intensity that felt like a hand on her shoulder. "Today we test decisiveness under pressure," Petrov announced, voice carrying to every corner, despite the lack of amplification. "You will face scenarios designed to expose weakness in judgment, execution, and command presence. Those who hesitate die. Those who panic kill their team." His pale eyes swept the formation, landed on Riley, held. "Those who do not belong here will be identified and removed." The words hung in the air like smoke from a gun barrel. "First rotation, tactical decision-making," Petrov continued. "You will be presented with combat scenarios requiring immediate response. Your choices will be evaluated not just on outcome, but on process. Second rotation, equipment proficiency under stress. Third rotation, leadership assessment." He paused. "Specialist Brooks, you will lead first rotation." Riley's expression didn't change. "Yes, sir." Around her, she felt the shift. The way everyone suddenly paid attention. Leading first rotation meant being watched most carefully, meant any mistake would be magnified, documented, used as evidence. It was a spotlight when she needed shadows. But she stepped forward when called, followed Petrov to the tactical planning area where a digital display showed a map of theoretical terrain. Urban environment, multiple structures, suspected hostile positions marked in red. A scenario designed to have no perfect answer, only choices and consequences. Petrov gestured to the screen. "Your squad is moving through this sector. Intel reports enemy combatants in buildings 3 and 7, civilians potentially in building 5. You have limited ammunition, no air support, and 15 minutes before enemy reinforcements arrive. What do you do?" Riley studied the map. 12 seconds, the amount of time a rookie might need, the amount of time that felt natural. Then, split squad into 2 elements. First element suppresses building 3, while second clears building 7. Avoid building 5 until we can confirm civilian presence. Establish overwatch position here. She pointed to a rooftop with clear sight lines. To cover withdrawal route. Execute within 8 minutes, leaving 7 minutes for extraction before reinforcements arrive. And if civilians are confirmed in Building 5 and enemy forces use them as shields, Petrov pressed, then we hold position, establish perimeter, and call for negotiation support while maintaining tactical advantage. There is no negotiation support available. Then we wait. A bad decision made fast is still a bad decision. Something flickered across Petrov's face, not approval, something sharper. He glanced at Webb, who was watching the exchange with furrowed brow. "Interesting answer," Petrov said slowly. "Very measured, very experienced." He made a notation on his clipboard. "Next scenario." The rotation continued. Scenario after scenario, each designed to pressure different aspects of tactical thinking. Riley answered each with the same measured competence. Good enough to pass. Not good enough to seem extraordinary. But Petrov kept pushing, kept digging, kept asking follow-up questions that felt less like evaluation and more like interrogation. "How do you know to establish overwatch in that position?" "Standard tactical doctrine, sir." "Which manual?" "Combined Arms Operations, sir. Chapter 7. "What page?" Riley paused, just long enough to seem uncertain. "I don't recall the exact page, sir." "Convenient." Petrov's smile was all edges. "Or perhaps you learned it somewhere other than manuals." The implication hung between them like a blade suspended by thread. Riley met his gaze, face empty of everything but polite confusion. "I don't understand what you're suggesting, sir." "Don't you?" He leaned closer, voice dropping so only she could hear. "I think you understand perfectly." Webb stepped forward, cutting the tension. "That's sufficient for first rotation. Specialist Brooks, you're cleared for equipment proficiency. Report to Sergeant Harrison at the range." Riley saluted, about-faced, walked away with that same unhurried pace while feeling Petrov's stare drilling into her spine like a laser sight. Garrett intercepted her halfway across the hangar. "You need to watch yourself," he said, quiet, falling into step beside her. "Petrov's not just evaluating, he's hunting." "I noticed, Sergeant." "You know why?" Riley glanced at him. Those green eyes gave nothing away. "I'm a convenient target?" "No." Garrett's voice went even softer. "You're a specific target. That man looks at you like he's trying to solve a puzzle, like you're the answer to a question he's been asking for a long time." He stopped walking, forcing her to stop too. "Who are you, really?" For 3 seconds, Riley held his gaze. Then, "I'm exactly who my file says I am. Your file is a story, but stories can be cover. I've run enough operations to know the difference between a rookie and an operator playing rookie." He tilted his head slightly. "Question is, why are you playing?" Riley's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "With respect, Sergeant, you're imagining things. Maybe, or maybe I'm the only person here who recognizes what I'm looking at." Garrett's expression softened slightly. "Either way, you've got a target on your back, and whatever you're doing here, it's about to get a lot harder." He walked away before she could respond. The equipment proficiency rotation was held at the attached shooting range, a long concrete gallery with 20 firing positions and electronic targets downrange at varying distances. The smell of gun oil and burned powder hung permanent in the air, mixing with the chemical tang of cleaning solvents. Harrison ran this station with the territorial pride of someone who had found his kingdom and intended to defend it. He handed Riley an M4 rifle, standard issue. "Qual course," he said flat. 40 rounds, 4 target sets, 3 minutes. Minimum score 70% to pass. He leaned closer, voice dropping. "For you, I'd recommend 100%. Petrov's watching." Riley took the rifle, checked the chamber, examined the sights. Everything appeared standard, but she'd learned yesterday that appearances meant nothing here. She loaded the magazine, took position at lane 12, adjusted her stance, feet shoulder width, weight forward, jacket sleeves falling to cover her wrists. Other shooters occupied lanes on either side, Marino to her left, a British contingent member to her right, both watching sideways while pretending not to. "Range is hot," Harrison called. "Shooters, you may commence firing." Riley brought the rifle up, smooth, controlled, sight picture acquired in under a second. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. The bullet went wide, 6 inches right of center mass. She adjusted, fired again. Another miss, this time high. Around her, other shooters found their rhythm, steady cracks of rounds hitting targets. Her misses stood out like alarm bells. Riley's breathing stayed even. 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out. She examined the rifle between shots. Sights were off, just slightly, just enough. Someone had adjusted the windage after she'd inspected it, someone who had had access while she was taking position. She glanced toward Harrison. He watched her with flat eyes and a small smile pulling at one corner of his mouth. Riley made a decision. Instead of reporting the sabotage sites, she adapted, started compensating for the deviation, adjusting her aim to account for the manufactured flaw. It took 5 rounds to find the pattern. By round 15, she was hitting consistent center mass. By round 30, she'd settled into a rhythm that looked like luck finding its footing. She finished the qual course with 73%, barely passing, unremarkable for someone struggling with unfamiliar equipment. Harrison checked the target when she was done. His smile faded slightly. Not enough for most people to notice, but Riley saw it. He'd expected total failure, expected the sabotage to break her completely. "Adequate," he said eventually. Made a notation on his evaluation sheet. Barely. Riley cleared the weapon, returned it to the rack, walked away without looking back. But Garrett had been watching from the observation booth. He'd seen her initial misses, seen the adjustment pattern, seen the moment she stopped fighting the broken sights and started using them. That wasn't luck. That was adaptation. That was training most people in this room would never receive. He pulled out his phone, sent a discreet text to Webb. "Need to talk. Priority. Drop a comment below if you've ever had to adapt to broken equipment, and if you want to see how this all comes together. That subscribe button helps us keep bringing these stories. Thank you for being part of this journey. 1,300 hours brought a break. Personnel scattered to the dining facility, lockers, or outside for air. Riley chose isolation, found a corner near the maintenance bay where tools hung on pegboards and the smell of grease overpowered everything else. She sat on an overturned crate, pulled out a protein bar, ate mechanical without tasting. The dog tags under her collar shifted slightly. She resisted the urge to check them, resisted the urge to touch the thing she kept hidden under layers of fabric and discipline. Footsteps approached, multiple sets. She looked up to find Petrov, Harrison, and Marino forming a loose semicircle around her position. The maintenance bay was empty otherwise. No witnesses, no cameras in this section, just concrete walls and shadow. "You did not eat in the dining facility," Petrov observed conversational. "Do you not enjoy company, Specialist Brooks?" Riley stood. "I prefer quiet, sir." "Quiet, yes." He stepped closer. "You prefer many things that seem unusual for someone at your supposed level of experience. Quiet, long sleeves and heat, isolation." Another step. "Tell me, what else do you prefer? What else are you hiding?" "I'm not hiding anything, sir." "No?" Petrov's expression remained neutral, but something cold moved behind his eyes. "I wonder. You see, I have been doing research. Your background check is clean. Too clean. The kind of clean that happens when someone has been very carefully scrubbed from systems." He circled slightly, forcing her to track him. "And your behavior? So controlled, so precise. The way you compensated for sabotaged rifle sites just now, that was impressive. Almost like you have done it before, many times before." Riley's breathing stayed steady. "The sights were off? Don't insult me." His voice hardened. "You knew, you adapted, and that adaptation tells me you are not what you pretend to be." He stopped directly in front of her. "So, I will ask once more, clearly. Who are you?" "Specialist Riley Brooks, U.S. Army, assigned to—" "Lies." The word cracked like a whip. "You are lying, and I do not tolerate lies in my training program." He glanced at Harrison. "Sergeant, you noted equipment irregularities in Specialist Brooks's locker inspection this morning, yes?" Harrison nodded. "Yes, sir. Potential safety violations." Riley's eyes narrowed. "I was never informed of any inspection." "Surprise inspections require no notification," Petrov said smoothly. "And now there are concerns about your equipment compliance. Specifically, your constant wearing of unauthorized outer layers despite heat advisories." He gestured toward her jacket. "I require you to remove your jacket, now, so we can verify you are not concealing unauthorized items or safety violations." The maintenance bay suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer. Riley's hand went to her jacket zipper. "Sir, I'm not carrying anything unauthorized." "Then you will not mind showing us." "This feels like harassment, sir. This is protocol enforcement." Petrov's voice went ice cold. "You can remove the jacket here, voluntarily, or I can have you written up for insubordination and removed from the program immediately. Your choice." Behind him, Harrison and Marino watched with expressions that mixed anticipation and cruelty. This was the moment they'd been building toward. The breaking point. The public humiliation designed to force her out or expose whatever she was hiding. Riley's jaw clenched. Her breathing hitched just for a second, out of its careful pattern. Then she made a decision. Her hand went to the zipper, pulled it down slowly. The sound of metal teeth separating filled the maintenance bay like a countdown. She shrugged the jacket off her shoulders. Underneath, she wore a standard-issue tan t-shirt. But when she turned to set the jacket down, her back faced them. And on her back, visible through the sweat-dampened fabric that clung to her skin, were shapes, outlines, the clear evidence of something massive inked into her flesh. "The shirt, too," Petrov said, voice tight. "I need to verify there are no concealed items." Riley turned back around. Her face showed nothing. But something had shifted in her eyes. Something that looked almost like relief. Like a woman who had been holding her breath underwater and finally decided to surface. "You want to see what I'm hiding?" she asked quiet. "Fine." She gripped the bottom hem of her shirt. In one smooth motion, she pulled it up and over her head. Turning as she did so, her back faced them fully. The tattoo revealed itself like a secret finally told. It covered her entire upper back, shoulder blade to shoulder blade, a massive design dominated by a skull at the center. rendered in stark black ink with anatomical precision. Above the skull, Roman numeral 13, each digit tall as a finger, positioned where the spine met the shoulder blades. Spreading from the skull's temples were wings, not angel wings, but the distinctive trident and wing combination that marked Joint Special Operations Command. The design was beautiful, professional, expensive, the kind of ink that took multiple sessions and serious money. But what made every person in that maintenance bay freeze was the scar. It tore through the tattoo like lightning through night sky. A massive keloid formation that started at Riley's right shoulder, carved diagonally across her spine, and terminated at her left ribs. The tissue was raised, irregular, mottled with a distinctive pattern of blast trauma. Shrapnel scars dotted the periphery, dozens of small craters where metal fragments had torn through flesh. The tattoo had been damaged by the wound, ink disrupted and distorted, turning the pristine artwork into something that looked like a battle standard carried through hell. The scar was old, years healed, but unmistakable in its origin. This was an IED blast, the kind that killed people, the kind that left survivors permanently marked. Riley stood there, bare-backed, breathing steady, while silence stretched thin enough to snap. Petrov stared. His face had gone the color of concrete dust. His lips parted slightly, moved, formed words in Russian that came out barely audible. Невозможно, это невозможно. Impossible. This is impossible. His hand came up slowly, finger pointing at the tattoo, like it might vanish if he looked away. His entire body had gone rigid. The expression on his face wasn't anger anymore. It was shock, recognition, fear. Because he'd seen this tattoo before, through a scope, at 800 meters, in Syria, 2021. The memory crashed over him like cold water. Desert night, position on a ridgeline, target in the valley below moving between structures. The target had paused, just for a second, to adjust equipment. Their shirt had ridden up. In that 1-second window, illuminated by ambient light and magnified 12 times through his scope, Petrov had seen the tattoo. Trident wings, unmistakable. His orders had been clear. Eliminate the JSOC operator before they could reach the extraction point. He'd taken the shot, missed. The target had moved at the last instant. Then the IED had detonated, not his doing, some other threat in the area, and the entire valley had erupted in fire. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing but blast crater and scattered debris. Mission report, target eliminated by secondary explosion, confirmed kill. Except the target wasn't dead. The target was standing in front of him. Now, 3 years later, in a NATO training hangar, with the scar from that blast carved through the tattoo he'd once seen through his scope. Petrov took a step backward. His professional mask cracked like thin ice. "Prizrak," he whispered. "Ghost." Riley turned slowly to face him. Her expression remained neutral, but her eyes held his with the weight of someone who knew exactly what he was thinking, what he was remembering, what he was realizing. "You recognize it," she said. Not a question. A statement. Petrov's hand trembled slightly as he lowered it. "Who are you?" The question came out hoarse. Different from before. This wasn't interrogation. This was desperation. Before Riley could answer, bootsteps echoed from the maintenance bay entrance. Garrett appeared first, moving fast, Webb close behind. Both men took in the scene instantly. Riley shirtless and scarred, Petrov backing away, Harrison and Marino frozen in place. Garrett's eyes went to the tattoo. His face shifted through a dozen emotions in 2 seconds. Shock, recognition, understanding, then something that looked almost like vindication. He came to attention. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his right hand to his forehead in a crisp salute. "Operator 13, he said formal. "Sergeant Major Frank Garrett. I had the honor of training you at Bragg, 2018 through 2020. Webb's head snapped around. "What did you just say?" Garrett didn't lower his salute. "This woman is not Specialist Riley Brooks. This woman is a Tier 1 JSOC operator. Call sign 13. 13. Attached to..." He paused, glanced at Petrov, then back to Webb. "Attached to units that don't officially exist." Webb pulled out his tablet with shaking hands, pulled up classified rosters, the ones above his clearance level that required biometric verification to even glimpse. His thumb pressed against the scanner. The screen flashed warnings, then granted access. He scrolled, stopped. His face went pale. On the screen was a photograph. Riley's face. Younger, harder. Besidet, Operator 13, JSOC Special Access Program, status active, classified. And below that, a note dated 3 years prior, Syria Operation, status MIA, presumed KIA. Then another note, dated 2 months ago. Status updated, active, deep cover assignment. Webb looked from the tablet to Riley, to the tattoo, to Garrett. Holy cow, he breathed. You're dead on paper, Riley finished quiet. She pulled her shirt back on, covered the tattoo and scar. Officially. According to every system you have access to, I died in Syria 2021. Blast trauma. No remains recovered. She met Petrov's eyes. Someone made sure of that report. Made sure everyone believed it. Petrov's face had gone from pale to ashen. He took another step back, bumped into a tool cart. The rational part of his brain was screaming at him to run. The trapped part knew it was already too late. You, Riley continued, voice still quiet but carrying now with authority that made even Webb stand straighter. You were on that ridge, 800 meters north-northwest of the extraction point. Russian-made rounds. You missed me by 6 inches. Then the IED went off and you reported the kill. Petrov's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. But I didn't die, Riley said. I survived, got pulled out by my team, spent 8 months in recovery. And when I could finally think again, I had questions. Like, who leaked our position? Who knew our route? Who wanted JSOC operators dead badly enough to coordinate with hostile forces? She took a step toward him. Took intelligence 2 years to track the leak back to NATO training programs. Someone embedded in the system. Someone selling information about special operations personnel to foreign handlers. Webb's expression hardened instantly. Captain Petrov, don't move. But Petrov was already moving. He spun toward the maintenance bay exit, boots pounding concrete. Got 3 steps before Garrett intercepted him. Not aggressive, just present, blocking the path with the solid inevitability of a wall. Petrov pivoted, tried the other direction. Harrison and Marino scattered out of his way like startled birds. The main hangar doors opened. Military police entered, 4 of them, moving with purpose. They'd been waiting, watching, listening through equipment that had been carefully placed over the past 2 days, while everyone focused on Riley's supposed failures. The MP sergeant approached Petrov with handcuffs ready. Captain Victor Petrov, you are detained pending investigation for espionage, unauthorized contact with foreign nationals, and attempted murder of U.S. military personnel. You have the right to remain silent. This is insane, Petrov choked out, regaining some composure. You cannot prove any of this. She is making accusations. There is no evidence. Actually, Riley said, there's quite a bit of evidence. Every time you sabotaged my equipment, you left digital fingerprints. Every conversation you had with Harrison about removing me from the program was recorded, and every encrypted message you sent to your handler in Moscow over the past 6 months has been intercepted and decrypted by NSA. She tilted her head slightly. You were sloppy, Victor. Arrogant. You thought because you'd killed me once, I was gone. You never considered I might be the bait. The handcuffs clicked shut around Petrov's wrists. His face had gone from ashen to red, veins standing out on his temples. He looked at Riley with pure hatred. You used yourself as bait? You let yourself be humiliated, abused, for what? To catch one agent? Not one, Riley corrected. A network. You're connected to a whole chain of compromised personnel. Defense contractors, intelligence analysts, training coordinators. She glanced at Harrison, who had gone white as paper. Your partner, Sergeant Harrison, has been very helpful. All his equipment modifications, his communications with you, his offshore bank account that received payments from shell companies traced back to Russian intelligence. Harrison bolted for the door, made it 4 steps before 2 MPs intercepted him. More handcuffs, more rights being read. Marino raised his hands slowly. I didn't know, he said fast. I swear I didn't know what they were doing. I just went along with the bullying. I didn't know it was part of something bigger. Webb looked at him with disgust. That makes you complicit. Detained pending investigation. He nodded to an MP who moved to secure Marino. The maintenance bay had transformed from isolated harassment space to arrest scene in under 5 minutes. Riley stood at the center of it, shirt back on, jacket in her hands, watching with the calm expression of someone who'd planned every moment of this. Garrett approached her. How long have you been running this operation? 4 months, Riley said. Intelligence identified Petrov as a potential double agent, but he was careful, never made mistakes, never gave us enough to prosecute. So we needed something to make him panic, make him act rashly. She looked at the older sergeant. Enter Specialist Riley Brooks, rookie, vulnerable, easy target, someone he could bully and sabotage without consequences. She smiled slightly. Except I kept not failing, kept adapting, kept surviving. That made him curious, made him look closer, made him wonder. Made him recognize you, Garrett finished. Eventually, I knew he would. The tattoo, the scar, he saw them in Syria through his scope. I was counting on him remembering, counting on that memory making him panic and expose himself. She glanced toward where Petrov stood in handcuffs, staring at her with uncomprehending fury. Mission accomplished. Webb was still processing. So, this entire time, the failures, the near accidents, the harassment, all of it was planned? Most of it. Some things I had to adapt to. Harrison's sabotage was creative, I'll give him that. But yes, controlled exposure. Let them think they were breaking me while I gathered evidence. Riley pulled her jacket back on, zipped it up. The hardest part was staying quiet, letting them mock me, accepting their contempt when every instinct screamed to fight back. Her expression flickered, just for a moment, with something that looked like exhaustion. But that's the job. Sometimes you wear humiliation like armor. Sometimes you let people think you're weak, so they'll underestimate you long enough to trap themselves. If you've made it this far, I need you to smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. This story isn't over. There's more coming, and your support helps us keep bringing these intense narratives. Share this with someone who needs to see it. The MPs escorted Petrov, Harrison, and Marino out of the maintenance bay. Their footsteps echoed across the main hangar, drawing attention from the handful of other personnel present. Word would spread fast. By dinner, everyone on base would know. Webb pulled Riley aside once the immediate chaos settled. I need a full debrief, and I need to understand why I wasn't read into this operation. I'm the lead instructor. I should have been informed. Need to know basis, Riley said without apology. The leak could have been anyone, even you, no offense. Some taken, Webb muttered, but his eyes held respect now. You put yourself through hell for this, took real hits, real risks. That harness failure could have killed you. Could have, didn't. Riley met his gaze. And now, 3 compromised personnel are in custody. Their communications are being traced back to handlers, and an entire network is about to collapse. That's worth some bruises and hurt pride. Garrett rejoined them. NSA is already moving on the communications intercepts. They've identified the handler, codename Volkov. He's embedded somewhere in NATO command structure. Brussels, probably. High level. Riley nodded slowly. Petrov kept mentioning reporting to someone, kept looking over his shoulder like he was more afraid of disappointing his boss than getting caught. Makes sense. Volkov's been running agents in NATO for at least 5 years, maybe longer. Petrov was just one asset. Garrett's expression went grim. Which means there are others. The question is, how many? Webb's tablet chimed. He glanced at it, frowned. I'm getting pulled into an emergency briefing with base command. This is going to go all the way up the chain. He looked at Riley. You'll need to be there. Full operational debrief. Understood, sir. Webb started to leave, paused. For what it's worth, Specialist Brooks, or whatever your real name is, you performed with exceptional professionalism under extreme circumstances. That takes discipline most people can't comprehend. He nodded once, then walked away. Garrett waited until Webb was out of earshot. Your real name isn't Riley Brooks, is it? No? You going to tell me what it is? Riley smiled slightly. Need to know basis, Sergeant Major. Figured. He chuckled softly. You know, when I was training you back at Bragg, I thought you were one of the most promising operators I'd ever seen. Discipline, focus, absolute refusal to quit. But I never imagined you would end up doing something like this. Like what? Using yourself as human bait, letting people hurt you to accomplish the mission. His expression softened. That's not just discipline, that's sacrifice. There's a difference. Riley looked away. For the first time since the reveal, emotion flickered across her face. Someone had to do it. Intelligence couldn't get close to Petrov any other way. He was too careful, too paranoid, but he couldn't resist a weak target. So I became one. She touched her chest, over where the dog tags hung. the cost of the mission. I knew what I was signing up for. Did you? Garrett's voice went gentle. Did you know how much it would cost? Emotionally? Having to stay silent while they tore you down? Having to pretend weakness when everything in you wanted to fight? Riley's jaw tightened. I've endured worse. I know. Syria, the blast. I read the after-action reports, classified ones. You almost died, took 8 months of recovery. Came back when most people would have retired. He paused. Why? Because the mission wasn't finished. Because someone leaked our position and got my team nearly killed. Because I don't leave things undone. She met his eyes. And because this is who I am. This is what I do. Garrett held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I understand. He straightened. For what it's worth, Operator 13, it was an honor to witness this operation. And it'll be an honor to tell the story, the parts I'm allowed to tell anyway, to future trainees. You've just become a case study in patience and operational discipline. Great. I always wanted to be a lesson plan. He laughed. Welcome back from the dead, kid. Try to stay that way this time. Personnel began filtering back into the hangar as word spread about the arrests. Conversations buzzed like electrical current through water. Riley found herself the center of attention, despite trying to fade into the background. People stared, whispered, pointed, some with awe, some with confusion, a few with embarrassment, those who had participated in the mockery now realizing they'd been harassing a Tier 1 operator. One of the British contingent members approached cautiously. Ma'am, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for not speaking up, for letting them treat you that way. Riley shook her head. You were following social dynamics, not your fault. And I needed you to not speak up, needed the situation to play out naturally. She offered a slight smile. But thank you. Others approached with similar sentiments. Apologies, questions, requests for autographs, which Riley politely declined. The attention made her skin itch. This was the part she hated, the aftermath, when the mask came off and everyone wanted explanations and stories and justifications. She extracted herself from the crowd, headed toward the locker area. Her gear was still there, exactly as she'd left it. She began methodically packing. The mission was done. Time to move on to whatever came next. Her tablet buzzed. Secure message. She pulled it out, thumbprinted the scanner, the message decrypted. From Tower 4 Subject Ghost Protocol, Phase 1, complete. 13. Excellent work. Petrov in custody. Communications intercepts yielded 47 encrypted contacts. Network collapsing as we speak. However, new intelligence suggests Petrov was not operating alone. Handler identified. Call sign Volkov. Embedded in NATO command structure, Brussels HQ. Analysis of Petrov's communications reveals coordination with 3 additional agents. Unknown identities. Suspected deep cover, similar profile to Petrov. Naturalized citizens, decorated service records, positions of trust. Your cover as Riley Brooks, failed trainee, is burned. However, your death in Syria remains operational. Recommend maintaining ghost status. New coordinates attached. Brussels, NATO HQ, Wing Commander's Office. Suspected meeting location for Handler Network. Time window, 72 hours. They thought you died once. Let's keep them thinking that. Tower 4 out. Attached to the message was a schematic. NATO Headquarters Building, Brussels. 3 red dots marked on different floors, names beside each dot, all redacted. And a final note, 3 more ghosts. Find them before they disappear. Riley read the message twice. Then she looked up, across the hangar to where Garrett stood talking with Webb. Beyond them, the obstacle course stretched like a monument to the past 2 days. The tower where she'd nearly fallen. The firing range where she'd adapted to sabotaged sites. The maintenance bay where everything had finally broken open. She'd survived this mission, caught the target, exposed the network. But the job wasn't done. It was never done. Somewhere in Brussels, a handler named Volkov was coordinating with 3 agents who wore the same mask Petrov had worn. Respectability, service, trust. And they needed to be found, needed to be stopped. Riley closed the message, deleted it from the device. The mission parameters were memorized, the coordinates locked in her head. She finished packing her gear, slung the bag over her shoulder. Tomorrow, she'd be gone. Riley Brooks would fade away like she'd never existed. The training program would continue without her. And somewhere, In another base, in another country, under another name, she'd start again. New identity, new mission, same discipline, same sacrifice. Because this was who she was. This was what she did. She wore contempt like armor. She endured humiliation to accomplish objectives. She let people think she was weak so they'd expose themselves. She died on paper and lived in shadows. She was Operator 13, call sign Ghost. And ghosts didn't rest until the hunting was done. Garrett caught up with her before she reached the exit. "Where are you headed?" "Away. New assignment." "Already?" He shook his head. "They don't give you much time to recover, do they?" "Recovery is for people who have time. I don't." Riley adjusted the bag on her shoulder. "But thank you, Sergeant Major, for seeing what others didn't, for trusting your instincts. Just doing my job, same as you." He extended his hand. "Stay safe out there, 13. And if you ever need anything, someone who knows your real story, someone who understands, you know where to find me." She shook his hand, firm grip, professional. "I'll remember that." Then she walked out of the hangar into late afternoon light. The storm clouds from the night before had cleared, leaving sky the color of bruises fading to blue. Across the base, normal operations continued. Aircraft taxiing, personnel moving between buildings, the constant background hum of military life. Riley paused on the steps outside, pulled out the dog tags from under her collar, looked at the wrong serial number, the one that existed in databases no one here had clearance to access, the one that connected to files marked classified, restricted, eyes only, the one that belonged to someone officially dead. She tucked them back under her shirt, touched the spot over her heart where they rested. Then she descended the steps and disappeared into the afternoon crowd, just another soldier among thousands. Behind her, the hangar stood silent. The obstacle course waited for tomorrow's trainees. The firing range would echo with new rounds from new shooters. The maintenance bay would house new secrets, new confrontations, new moments where people showed who they really were. But the story of what happened there, of the rookie who wasn't a rookie, the operator who became bait, the ghost who came back from the dead, that story would live on, whispered in training sessions, shared in classified briefings, taught as a case study in patience, discipline, and the cost of the mission. And somewhere in Brussels, in an office in NATO headquarters, a man named Volkov would receive word that his asset had been compromised, would feel the network shaking beneath him, would know that someone was hunting him, would never see the ghost coming until it was too late. Justice wasn't loud, it was patient. It wore humiliation like armor. It adapted to broken equipment and sabotaged expectations. It survived blast trauma and betrayal and the weight of staying silent when everything screamed to fight back. Justice was a woman with a tattoo on her back and a scar that told the story of survival. A woman who had died on paper but lived in mission after mission after mission. Justice was coming, and this time, no one would stop it. 3 hours later, as darkness settled over Ramstein, Garrett stood alone in the empty hangar. He held a coin in his palm, not challenge issue, something older. A reminder from another operation. Another ghost who'd disappeared into missions that had no names. He thought about Riley Brooks, whoever she really was, walking into Brussels with nothing but discipline and a target on her back that she'd painted there herself. The maintenance bay lights flickered. Shadows stretched across concrete like fingers reaching. Somewhere in that darkness, the echo of her breathing pattern remained. 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out. The rhythm of someone who would learn to survive by becoming invisible. Garrett pocketed the coin, saluted the empty space where she'd stood. Then he turned off the lights and locked the doors, sealing the hangar and its secrets until morning came, and new trainees arrived, never knowing a ghost had walked among them. In Brussels, Volkov's phone screen illuminated in a darkened office. One word appeared, compromised. He stared at it for 3 seconds, then deleted the message and began erasing files, unaware that every keystroke was being recorded, unaware that the ghost he'd tried to kill 3 years ago was already boarding a transport plane, already coming for him.